I paused a 31-second interview clip because Cheryl Reeve's answer sounded lighter than the question deserved. She'd just been asked about coaching Caitlin Clark and Olivia Miles together in the All-Star backcourt. Reeve laughed, called the pairing super fun, then compared this new generation of guards with the era of Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. Most of the reaction stopped there. Two famous young guards, one exhibition game, plenty of passing highlights waiting to happen. But Reeve said something more specific. She described Clark and Miles as central figures in the next era of guard play, and she confirmed that they would form Team Spoon's starting backcourt. That placed a real basketball experiment inside what sounded like ceremonial praise. The conventional reading says Team Spoon has 2 point guards who need the same thing. Clark entered All-Star Week averaging 21.2 points and 8.2 assists. Miles arrived averaging 18.5 points and 5.7 assists. Both players are accustomed to reading the first defender, beginning the offense, and deciding whether a possession becomes a shot, drive, or pass. Put them together, and the concern sounds obvious. There's still only one ball. That concern treats point guard as a fixed location instead of a sequence of decisions. A possession doesn't need one creator from beginning to end. It needs someone capable of making the next defender wrong. The first creator bends the original coverage. The second creator decides whether the advantage survives. When both guards can perform both jobs, forcing one pass no longer ends the possession. Reeve didn't construct this roster. Teresa Weatherspoon made the selections during the July 15th All-Star Draft. Clark was assigned to Team Spoon after receiving 1,023,321 fan votes. Weatherspoon then selected Aja Wilson from the starter pool, followed by Miles, Aliyah Boston, and Jessica Shepard. That order gives away part of the plan. When Weatherspoon selected Miles, she said Team Spoon was trying to piece together its group and find chemistry. She praised Miles for playing with confidence, entering the paint, reaching the rim, and extending her range. That wasn't a description of a guard expected to stand in the corner while Clark controls every possession. Weatherspoon described a second point of pressure. Miles' season supports that role. The league's pre-All-Star profile credited her with 18.5 points and 5.7 assists per game. Her 96.1 defensive rating led the 120 players averaging at least 15 minutes. Her plus-minus through her first 20 professional games was plus 197, also the league's best figure. Those measurements aren't individual verdicts. Defensive rating and plus-minus are shaped by Minnesota's personnel, coaching, and schedule. They do establish that Miles has already carried major creation duties inside a high-functioning system. Minnesota didn't survive while giving a rookie control of its offense. It reached All-Star Week with the league's leading record while Miles paced every rookie in scoring and assists. Clark creates a different kind of pressure. The league's July profile listed her as the only player ranked in the top 5 in both scoring and assists. Indiana was producing 93.5 points per game with an offensive rating of 111.6. A defense couldn't treat Clark as a passer who might shoot or a scorer who might pass. It had to prepare for both outcomes before the possession began. The overlap between Clark and Miles is real. So is the difference. Clark's range changes the defense before she reaches the three-point line. A defender who meets her higher on the floor creates more space behind the first layer of coverage. Miles applies more pressure by entering that space, changing speed, and reaching the paint. One guard stretches the defense outward. The other attacks the opening that extension can produce. The clearest version starts with Miles handling the ball. If the defense assigns its most aggressive guard coverage to Clark, Miles can bring the ball across half court while Clark begins away from it. Clark can use a pin down, exchange positions with a wing, or cut behind a defender who's watching the ball. None of those actions guarantees an open shot. They force Clark's defender to make decisions before Clark has used a dribble. That changes the cost of denying her the ball. A defender facing Clark in isolation can concentrate on her handle and shooting pocket. A defender chasing Clark around a screen must also track the screener, the passing angle, and the space behind the play. The assignment stops being about one move. Now it's about arriving on time. The reverse arrangement may be even more important. Clark can initiate the possession and pull two defenders toward the first action. The release pass then goes to Miles. That's different from moving the ball to a stationary player whose main job is preserving the possession. Miles can catch against a tilted defense, enter the next gap, and make a second play before the original coverage recovers. This makes the phrase two-point guard experiment more precise. It isn't a contest to decide which guard should control the offense. It's a test of whether the defense can make Clark surrender the ball without also surrendering the advantage. The front court makes that test stranger. Wilson entered All-Star Week leading the league with 25.7 points per game. She was averaging 9.4 rebounds and 2 blocks. Weatherspoon selected her first and described a player who scores in the paint, hits from mid-range, and has extended her game beyond the arc. Boston was averaging a career-high 17 points and 8.6 rebounds when the starters were announced. Shepard reached the event averaging 14.2 points, 11.4 rebounds, and 5 assists. She'd recorded 2 triple-doubles and 12 double-doubles. Team Spoon therefore has 3 front-court players who influence a possession without occupying identical roles. Wilson supplies the primary scoring threat. Boston provides screening, interior power, and established timing with Clark. Shepard offers passing and offensive rebounding from the front court. Shepard's 5 assists per game may be the quietest number in the starting lineup. A front court player who can receive the ball near the elbow and locate cutters gives both guards a way to move without abandoning playmaking. Clark can pass to Shepard, relocate, and receive the ball again. Miles can cut through the paint, pull a defender with her, and clear the next action. Weatherspoon called Shepard a connector during the draft. She also said she wanted every rebound Team Spoon could collect. That combination matters because a 2-guard offense doesn't depend only on its first shot. A miss recovered by Shepard, Boston, or Wilson can restart the possession before the defense resets. There's an obvious limitation. Team Spoon's starting group is large, skilled, and decorated, but it isn't built around maximum spacing. Wilson, Boston, and Shepard all perform substantial work near the paint. Clark and Miles both need driving lanes. If 3 front-court defenders remain close to the rim, the theoretical benefit of 2 creators can shrink into traffic. A second point guard can't attack a gap that never opens. The answer comes from positioning rather than reputation. Boston doesn't have to stay on the low block for an entire possession. Shepard can work as a passer above the foul line. Wilson can screen, roll, stop in the mid-range, or move outside. Those choices determine whether Team Spoon has 3 interior players sharing one piece of floor or 3 front-court playmakers moving defenders through different layers. An All-Star Game is an imperfect laboratory for any of this. The teams have little practice time, substitutions arrive quickly, defensive intensity changes by the quarter, and a few transition possessions can make a lineup look more coordinated than it is. CBS Sports noted that Team Spoon has a chemistry advantage because it contains 3 pairs of regular teammates. Clark has Boston, Miles has Courtney Williams, Ryan Howard has Aliyah Gray. Even that advantage arrives with an exhibition-sized warning label. The league added a $100,000 charity prize pool. $70,000 goes to the organization represented by the winning team, while $30,000 goes to the runner-up's organization. That gives the result a defined stake, but it doesn't turn a July exhibition into a playoff series. The useful evidence will be smaller than the final score, and that was the detail hiding inside the 31-second clip I paused. Reeve didn't promise that Clark and Miles would dominate. She confirmed that they would share the starting backcourt and described both as part of the league's next guard era. The measurable question isn't whether Team Spoon wins, it's how the first 5 players arrange the floor when both guards are present. When you watch the opening possessions, focus on who begins with the ball and what the other guard does before the first pass. If Miles initiates, Clark's route away from the ball becomes the evidence. If Clark initiates, Miles' position after the defense commits becomes the evidence. If both stand above the arc waiting for alternating turns, the experiment has produced duplication. If one action flows into the next without a reset, it has produced layered creation. The next checkpoint is defense. Miles' 96.1 defensive rating came inside Minnesota's top-ranked structure, so an exhibition can't separate her individual impact from Reeve's system. It can reveal how Reeve divides the assignments. Clark can be protected from the hardest point of attack matchup, or the 2 guards can switch responsibilities according to size. Miles' defensive value gives Reeve an option that an offense-only pairing wouldn't provide. The experiment isn't confined to how the guards divide shots. If Miles absorbs a difficult perimeter assignment, Clark may preserve more energy for movement and creation. If Clark handles that assignment, Miles can become the transition outlet after a stop. Their offensive roles connect directly to their defensive workload. The third checkpoint arrives after a miss. Weatherspoon drafted Shepard because she wanted rebounds and second chances. Shepard's 11.4 rebounds per game explain the decision. Boston added 8.6, while Wilson added 9.4. Those figures came from separate teams, so they can't be combined into an expected team spoon total. They do establish that the starting group contains 3 proven rebounders behind 2 guards capable of launching transition offense. A defensive rebound by Wilson or Shepard can place the ball into either guard's hands. Clark can search for the long pass. Miles can accelerate through the middle. When one guard receives the outlet, the other becomes a transition threat without requiring a set play. The one-ball problem lasts only until the ball changes hands. The strongest case for this pairing isn't that Miles removes the need for Clark to create. She may remove the need for Clark to create every advantage from a stationary start. Indiana already has an elite scoring guard beside Clark. Kelsey Mitchell entered All-Star Week averaging 21.9 points. The league identified Clark and Mitchell as its highest scoring duo at 43.1 points per game. Mitchell was drafted to Team Coop, placing her on the opposite side of the July 25th matchup. That separation creates a useful contrast without declaring one pairing superior. Mitchell applies relentless scoring pressure. Miles brings a different balance of scoring, passing, and point-of-attack defense. Team Spoon can test what happens when Clark shares the floor with a second guard whose statistical profile is built around creation at both ends. The All-Star setting can't settle which model belongs in Indiana. It can make the differences visible. The most revealing possession may be the one in which the first action fails. If Clark's defender denies the initial screen, Miles must receive the ball with enough time to attack. When Miles drives and the low defender rotates, Clark's relocation becomes the second action. A defensive switch creates another decision, because either guard can identify and attack the mismatch. These aren't highlight questions. They're possession questions. They also explain why descriptions such as loaded or unstoppable miss the useful part of Team Spoon's roster. Every All-Star team is loaded by definition. This lineup is unusual because its 2 starting guards rank among the league's leading playmakers, while its 3 front-court starters supply scoring, passing, screening, and rebounding in different proportions. The experiment can fail. Clark and Miles may divide possessions instead of combining them. One could initiate while the other waits. The front court might compress the floor. Frequent substitutions may prevent the starters from reaching a second layer of offense. A few spectacular passes could still hide a shallow structure. That outcome wouldn't make either guard overrated. It would show that collecting playmaking doesn't automatically create connected playmaking. The distinction appears in what happens after the first decision. Reeve understands one half of the equation because she coaches Miles in Minnesota. Weatherspoon supplied the other half by putting Clark and Miles on the same team. During the draft, Weatherspoon said she was searching for chemistry, then chose Miles immediately after Wilson. 9 days later, Reeve publicly confirmed what that selection created. Her reference to Bird and Taurasi carried historical weight, but it wasn't a prediction that Clark and Miles will reproduce their careers or partnership. Bird and Taurasi accumulated years of shared experience through college, professional basketball, and international competition. Clark and Miles are receiving a compressed All-Star window. The comparison identifies a type of value. Elite guards don't have to weaken each other when both can score, pass, and function away from the first action. Their coexistence depends on timing, spacing, and a willingness to become the second threat on one possession after serving as the first threat on the previous one. That is what Reeve's 31-second answer placed on the court. She laughed because the pairing should be entertaining. The official numbers make it more than novelty. Clark arrived at 21.2 points and 8.2 assists. Miles brought 18.5 and 5.7, with Wilson leading the league at 25.7 points behind them. Weatherspoon added Boston's 17 points and Shepard's 5 assists from the front court. Then Reeve identified Clark and Miles as the starting backcourt. At 8:30 Eastern on July 25th, the experiment gets the ball.